The wedding was a grand affair, the kind my family lived for. Extravagant decorations, towering floral arrangements, and a guest list filled with socialites and business elites. As I stepped into the ballroom, I could already feel the stares. My siblings were clustered together at a table near the center of the room, dressed impeccably in tailored outfits that screamed wealth and privilege. I, on the other hand, wore a simple suit, something I'd bought off the rack years ago. It didn't matter to me, but I knew they would notice and comment as I approached the family table. Marcus, my eldest brother, was the first to notice me. He gave me a once-over, smirking as he raised his glass of champagne. "Ah, the prodigal son returns," he said loudly, ensuring everyone around him heard. "I didn't think you'd show up. Must have been hard scraping together the gas money for the drive." The table erupted in polite laughter, their faces turned toward me, half smiling, half sneering. "Come on, Marcus," Eleanor chimed in, brushing a strand of perfectly styled hair behind her ear. "Don't be mean. I'm sure he worked a little overtime to afford the gift he brought." "You did bring a gift, didn't you?" Her tone was dripping with condescension. I ignored them, placing the small, neatly wrapped box I'd brought on the gift table. Marcus noticed and leaned in closer. "What's in there? Coupons? Maybe some homemade cookies?" More laughter followed, and I caught the eye of our youngest sibling, Clara, who gave me an apologetic smile but said nothing. She never joined in, but she never stood up for me either. The dinner started shortly after, and I was seated at a table near the back of the room, far from the family spotlight. They had arranged it that way, of course. Marcus, Eleanor, and the others were in the center, laughing loudly and exchanging stories about their latest achievements. Marcus boasted about closing a massive deal at his investment firm, while Eleanor detailed the grand opening of her third art gallery. Their voices carried across the room, deliberate and calculated, ensuring everyone heard just how successful they were. Occasionally, their conversation would loop back to me. "So, what's the latest in your thrilling career?" Marcus asked during the main course, turning in his chair to look at me. His tone was playful, but his words were sharp. "Still working at that. What was it again? A tech support job?" "Something like that," I replied calmly, taking a sip of water. Eleanor chuckled, shaking her head. "Honestly, I don't know why you bother coming to these things. It must be exhausting being the only one here without anything to show for yourself." "It's not his fault," Marcus interjected. "Not everyone's cut out for greatness." The table roared with laughter, and I stayed silent, letting them think they had won. As the night went on, the ridicule continued. During the toasts, Marcus couldn't resist taking another jab. "To family," he said, raising his glass. "Some of us carry the torch of success, and others, well, others just cheer us on from the sidelines." He glanced at me as the crowd laughed and clinked glasses. I raised mine too, meeting his gaze without a word. Later, during the dancing, I stepped outside for some air. The cool evening breeze was a welcome contrast to the stifling atmosphere of the ballroom. From the terrace, I could see the sprawling estate illuminated by soft lights, a testament to wealth and grandeur. They didn't know I owned it. 3 years ago, I had quietly purchased the property through a limited liability company, knowing my family's vanity would lead them to lease it without a second thought. They loved hosting events here, bragging about their estate to anyone who would listen. Returning inside, I found Marcus at the center of a crowd, regaling them with tales of his success. "It's all about connections," he was saying, swirling his glass of scotch. "You have to know the right people, make the right moves. Some people just don't have the knack for it." His eyes flicked to me as he spoke. "I'm sure you're right," I said, stepping closer. "Connections are everything." He raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised that I joined the conversation. "Oh, and what would you know about that?" "More than you'd think," I replied, pulling a folder from my jacket pocket. "Let's talk privately for a moment." The crowd around him murmured, curious, but Marcus waved them off, following me into a nearby lounge. "What's this about?" he asked, his tone still smug. I handed him the folder. "Take a look." He opened it, his expression shifting from confidence to confusion. As he flipped through the pages, the color drained from his face. "What is this?" he asked sharply. It's the ownership documents for this estate, I said calmly, and the details of the company I built. The one that owns not just this property, but also the investment firm you've been trying to partner with for months. He froze, staring at me, his jaw tightening. This has to be a joke? It's not, I said. I've been running a tech company for years. Quietly, of course. You were too busy looking down on me to notice. His hands clenched the folder as he sputtered. Why didn't you say anything? You never asked, I replied simply. The silence hung heavy between us as he struggled to process the revelation. Without another word, I turned and left the room, returning to the ballroom. The music was playing, and the family was laughing, still oblivious to what had just transpired. I didn't need to say anything. Marcus would tell them eventually. For now, I was content to sit back and let them enjoy their evening, knowing the balance of power had shifted in a way they'd never expected.